Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Swoon-Worthy, a podcast dedicated to period dramas. And for our new listeners, my name is Carly, and I'm joined by my sister and co-host, Kayla. And for this episode, we are joined by one of our awesome period drama enthusiast, classic literature enthusiast friends as a guest host. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
So, Anna, tell us a bit about you and how we got to meet each other.
Well, we met in painting class in community college. I remember your painting, um, and I really liked what you were painting. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go up to this girl and just say like, "Hey, this is cool." And that's just how we started.
Well, both of you are very talented, and I don't know, when I was watching Jane Eyre, knowing I was about to talk about it with you guys, I was like, well, they probably relate to her being able to do these imaginative sketches and paintings.
Yeah, I think we do for sure. And Anna's artwork is super cool. Y'all should check it out. Anna, what's your Instagram?
Evil Bloom.
You should do a Jane Eyre artwork.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. And if you happen to listen to last week's episode, you were probably given a hint as to this week's episode topic, because last week we had an impromptu discussion on the latest casting news of Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. It's a future adaptation of one of the Bronte novels, Emily Bronte's novel. And in that discussion, we shared that the three of us have been watching Jane Eyre adaptations to prepare for this episode. In fact, this might be the most prepared we've been. I know we've all been watching so many Jane Eyre on-screen versions because so many of them exist. So I thought we'd start out by talking about which ones we've seen.
I've seen Jane Eyre 2011 and 2006 and 1997. So I've seen the most recent ones.
Okay. I've seen the 1983 with Timothy Dalton, the 1996, and the 2011.
Awesome. Okay, great. And I also watched the 1940. So I watched the ones that you all have watched. And then I watched the 1943 one, the very old one with Orson Welles. And I think that's it. I think then just the ones that you all covered. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 adaptations that we might talk about today, which is pretty cool. And then just a little background. So the novel Jane Eyre was written and published in 1847 by Charlotte Bronte, and she's the eldest of the Bronte sisters. They all ended up publishing novels under pseudonyms, which I think is just fascinating. So Charlotte was Currer Bell. It's so hard to say. Currer, Currer. And then Emily was Ellis Bell, and Anne was Acton Bell. That's also an interesting name, Acton. So they published, perhaps thinking they would have maybe greater success if these novels came out under potentially men's names. But of course, they are so well revered today, and their stories have stood the test of time. But I can't wait to talk to you all about Jane Eyre, which is perhaps one of the most well-known Victorian novels out there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think it has the most like movie renditions done. Like back to back. You'll see like 1996, 1997, like it's just back to back.
Yeah. And Anna, I know you mentioned you love Wuthering Heights, the novel. But I feel like you've also read Jane Eyre, the novel.
Yes, I've read Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, Agnes Grey.
Oh,
I'm trying to go down the list, but yeah, I've read
nice.
those.
Very nice. It's considered a coming of age story, right? So Jane Eyre, she starts out age 10. That's when we're introduced to her. I believe she's 10 years old, and she's living with her aunt. Her parents have both died. And you just get this horrible picture painted of this life where she's unloved by her aunt and her cousins, particularly the young boy who just treats her horribly. And beats her
Yeah.
beats her up. Um, was there a version that you think it's that you watch where you're like, wow, this is just brutal, it's hard to watch, or did you, I don't know, what do you think?
So I do think the 2011 one kind of gives it more of that brutality. It just seems more dreary.
Yeah.
Um, but I do feel like the 1996 version, I love Anna Paquin as young
Yes.
Jane Eyre. I do think she just like captures that fiery spirit that Jane Eyre is like described to have. Um, but I think I prefer the 2011 vibe more.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing because that version you really just feel more for the character, and the other versions it just seemed more watered down for some
Like
reason.
matter of the fact, like it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, poor little girl, yeah.
So I love what you said, Anna and Kayla, and I agree. In the 2011 version, it's very brutal. The young actress in that one is this cute little actress. What is her name? Her name is Amelia Clarkson. And if you're a Poldark fan, that's the character of Rosina when she was younger. And I hate it when the cousin just like smacks the book into her head. Like
Yeah.
you feel it. It's just
Yes.
brutal. And then when she's locked in the red room, it's also
Yes.
very scary.
And I love how it does incorporate the supernatural vibe that the
Hmm.
book has. And I feel like this is the only movie that incorporates that. So that's what I love about it. Because,
Yeah.
the Bronte sisters are very supernatural, very like about ghosts and hauntings. And I feel like this is the only one that the ones that I've seen so far that
Yeah.
incorporate that.
No, totally agree. And then I like how you mentioned Anna Paquin in the other version because totally a scene, like I think she's the best part of that
Yeah.
adaptation. Yeah. And she had already won an Oscar by that time, which is crazy.
Crazy. I know.
Best supporting actress, she was how old? She was
I think I
age
saw
11,
I think I saw that movie that she won for
the
the piano.
piano. Hmm. From 1993.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talked over you. But yeah, um, she's just powerful at that young age. It's so crazy. But I have to also mention that in the 2006 version, Kayla, which you saw, Georgie Henley, young Lucy Pevensey from Narnia, is the little Jane Eyre.
Yes, that was surprising to see. She's so cute.
Adore her. And then she gets sent to the Lowood school. Oh, wait, but I love how I feel like every episode, or sorry, every version in when she's talking back to her aunt and that Brocklehurst man is like interviewing her and they
Hmm.
ask her like about going to hell and what are you going to do about it since you don't want to go to hell, and she's like, I must take care to keep in good health.
Good health. Yeah. She's such a smart aleck.
So great, so great. She gets sent to Lowood School. It's a charity school. Just more brutality there by the teachers and some of the students, some of the kids. But then, of course, she finds her dear friend, Helen Burns, um, always played by a sweet little girl, sometimes with red hair.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say the one of the versions I watched, she looked exactly like the one from the 2011. I was like, is that the same girl? I think it was the 2006.
1996 one and the 2011, they looked exactly alike. I
Or
know. I
also
thought
the
so too.
2006 one.
That's so funny. And I want to apologize to our listeners just because my throat is a bit scratchy. I'm a little under the weather, so I don't sound as energetic as I usually do. But I assure you that I just love this topic so much. So let's continue.
It kind of goes with it kind of fits with the mood though.
The spooky mood. Okay. Um, and one more quick thing. So the 1943 version of Jane Eyre, the little girl, Helen, is played by a young Elizabeth Taylor, which
Oh,
is,
wow.
yeah, very interesting. She has this very angelic little face.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, I
Oh,
didn't know she was a child star.
hmm. Yep.
Oh,
She
okay.
was. She was in some show about some movie series about horses. Well, she was a little horse rider girl, equestrian girl. Okay. Anyways, and then in some versions, at the Lowood school, she's befriended by a nice teacher.
Yeah,
Sometimes they incorporate that, but they don't always do that. I
they
think,
definitely did it in the 2011 version. They kind of a little bit, but not really. Not like the other versions that I saw.
yeah, like the one, Anna, that you mentioned with Anna Paquin, it has Kayla, the Persuasion actress from 1995, Amanda Root. She plays
The nice teacher.
the
Yeah.
nice teacher, and she's so sweet. So I just love how you never know what you're going to get with these Jane Eyre adaptations. Like, are they going to include this person? Are they going to totally breeze over this person? But you basically get the gist of it that this school, she learned a lot, whether it's, about friendship or about enduring hardships. And she comes out of it strong and she becomes a teacher for a couple years at that school before advertising and getting this job as a governess.
And that's where the fun begins.
All the fun. So she's 19 at this point, okay? And she's going to Thornfield Hall. She's going to this great estate. And it sounds like she just knows nothing about her job because when she gets there, she's always like, oh, little Miss Fairfax is going to be my pupil. And who's Mr. Rochester? It's so funny.
Yeah, she just said yes to the first job. She's like, I'm out.
Oh, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Kayla, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. And Miss Fairfax is your housekeeper, the great estates. And I mean, we can't not talk about the fact that Dame Judi Dench was cast in the 2011, which was
Hmm.
epic.
I love her in this role.
Um, and sometimes I'm like surprised that she took this role because, but then I realized she really does do great job with supporting actress roles, and she's not afraid to take one, even if it's 8 minutes, like Queen Elizabeth in Shakespeare in Love. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see her in a role that's not so like she's just like a lowly housemaid type in this movie.
Hmm.
But in other movies, she's like, this wealthy, well-to-do woman, and it's just crazy how she's just so good at that.
Yeah, and as small as the role is, Miss Fairfax was pretty big in a sense, kind of protective over Jane. So something that she didn't really have in her life. So I
Yeah.
think she really brought on that like seriousness to the character.
Hmm. No, well said. And then she meets her little pupil,
Mhm.
Miss Veron, Adele.
Adele Verons, yeah.
Hmm. And always just this cute little French girl, but she's sometimes a little sassy, sometimes a little over the top, maybe OTT.
Yeah, and I
I
love how.
love it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I love how Judi Dench reacts to her dance. She's just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well."
She's so disturbed by it. But I love how in every version, Adele brings Rochester Jane's drawings, and Jane just looks at her and gives her this look of like, "Oh, how dare you!" Which I always like feel. I was like, I would be so mad.
Mhm.
Yeah, she kind of doesn't really know her place or no boundaries. I mean, if you think about her life before Thornfield, she was in Paris with her mother, who I guess was a woman of the night, right? And she was also an opera singer, I think, because that's sometimes in these classic literature stories, it's like more of a euphemism, I think, an opera singer or dancer
But
for.
yeah, she's probably just like an opera singer, dancer. You know how they would view like these artistic people, theater
Mhm.
people. They were kind of doing whatever they want. So that's probably what's implied.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're thinking she's not actually a prostitute.
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm thinking of the story of Camille, um, which Moulin Rouge is based off of, where she's kind of a performer slash, I don't know. Okay, we're too
Let's
much
get
into
to
this.
the hot guy.
Okay, hold on. All right. So the meet cute. we want to call it that. I mean, this is also just so great as a story. In the story, she's taking a walk and she kind of gets in the way of a man on horseback and he doesn't see her. It seems like she appears out of nowhere, startles his horse, knocks him off, and he gets injured. And this whole experience is just such a crazy little story. Like he's baffled by what happened, but he's also in many of the versions, you instantly see him look at her like, "Who are you?" Like, I'm intrigued, maybe a little attracted.
Well, in the one version I watched, I think it was the 2006, he's just like, "You're a witch."
The 1996 version had the least chemistry between Jane Eyre and Rochester. I mean, I love Charlotte as Jane. She brought that look like Mia Wachowska did in 2011, but William Hurt was not Rochester at all.
Mm.
No, so poorly cast. I mean, awesome as a wise old fatherly figure in many movies like Tuck Everlasting,
Yes.
The Village, like, and even his voice is more like a wise person, but he doesn't even have a Rochester voice, a
No.
booming voice. And it's just, as you said, lack of chemistry, where some of the other ones, the chemistry's right off the bat.
Yes.
What do you think, Kayla, about the 2011, the 2006?
Oh, well, so I just love everything about the 2011 version. I mean, me and Anna watched this together recently, and we just kept talking about how just like dramatic and like just how good Michael Fassbender is as Rochester. Yeah, I mean, I love the 2011 version because she's in the fog, and he just sees her, and it's almost like he flings himself off the horse because he's just so dramatic. Like, you know what I mean?
It really is.
And I just love the energy between them in this moment, And but the 2006 version, I thought it was funny because he's just like, "Are you a witch?" Like he's just so like he's also kind of dramatic. The actor kind of reminds me of Fassbender a little bit, but
Hmm.
in a different way.
Okay, I love Toby Stevens. We have to talk about him for a second because his mother was Dame Maggie Smith, who
Yeah,
just passed away, which is just you got to think about him and his other actor brother and how, we got to think about them at this time. That was a blow.
that was. She's so iconic in every role that she takes. Obviously, I grew up with her with Harry Potter, and then she was also in Downton Abbey. That was an iconic role as well. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes. We lost a good one, but she did live a very wonderful life and the fact that her two sons became actors and are so talented. Um, and Toby Stevens, he was in the Tenant and Wildfell Hall adaptation.
Okay.
So he's another, he's been a Bronte hero before. And then he's Mr. Rochester in this, and he's probably one of the favorites, him and Fassbender. But we cannot not talk about Timothy Dalton. Anna, I know you said you watched that version from
Yes,
1983.
I surprisingly loved that version. I loved how it felt like it was like a theatrical play, the sets and all that. And Timothy Dalton, it was between him and Michael Fassbender that I love because they both have that sassiness that Rochester brings, because he's constantly trying to push Jane's, buttons and try to bring out that fiery, personality that she has that she's trying to hide and, suppress. And I love that.
I want to
He's,
see that version now. That's one of the ones I didn't see. It sounds good though.
It was. And I'm with you, Anna. I watched it not expecting too much from it, other than the fact that it's rated the highest on IMDb. It's an 8.0. And then, oh, actually, it's the second highest. Sorry. It's the second highest with 8.0. And he was amazing. Like Timothy Dalton, he became a Bond, a James Bond eventually. He's almost, I mean, he's perfect. Like, I loved him in the role. A little too good looking, maybe, to be
yes,
Rochester.
yes.
That's the
'Cause
only thing.
even after when he gets maimed, I'm like, he's still too handsome.
Oh,
Right.
really?
So when that question comes out, when, it's past the point that they've met and she returns to Thornfield and sees him by the fireplace and he asks for her, and they're officially meeting as governess and employer, where um he asks, well, actually, sometimes it's in this scene, sometimes it's in other scenes where he asks her, "Do you find me handsome?" And she's like, "No." But in this case with Timothy Dalton, I was like, you couldn't say that.
How could you? Yeah.
Same a little bit with Michael Fassbender. It's a little bit off. Like you can't, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's handsome, but not in a conventional way, so maybe that's what works for him. Like he's not like Timothy Dalton where it's obvious. Michael Fassbender has so much other things going for him, like his the way he talks and all that, but I think that's what
Swoon.
works for him. Yeah.
He's very swoon-worthy. But you're right. Like it's a little bit everything, his voice, yeah, his voice, his mannerisms, his eyes.
Yeah.
Wait, is
And then
Rochester not supposed to be handsome in the book? Really?
no.
It's
So let me
continuously described as he's not handsome, so I don't yeah.
Okay, well, I like
But
what they do in the movie where it's like he is handsome. He's like, "Do you find me handsome?" And then she's just so like, I don't think of things like that, you know. She's just kind of like playing it off as it's not important
Mhm.
to me, you know.
Yeah, no, he's often described as middle height, stern features, broad and jetty eyebrows, a square forehead, black hair. Even at one point, it says an ugly man, I think. And
Really?
she's trying, uh-huh. He was not handsome, but a good figure in the athletic sense. Yeah, and I think at one point she's wondering if he might be 35, but Rochester's 40, I believe,
Definitely late 30s, yeah,
late
almost
30s
40. Yeah.
to her 19.
Yeah.
But she can hold her own, and that wasn't uncommon in the time period.
Yeah. Do you think in the book she was said he was ugly, but just because she thought he seemed like up like into himself
Like a
and stuff?
brute.
Yeah.
Maybe she was just saying that in the book, like he's ugly, but really he's hot.
I mean, the description doesn't sound ugly, so I don't know. Maybe
I
you're
know when you're
right.
describing him, like that doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also says that he has complete indifference to his own external appearance. So, he's just being himself. He's being his true, authentic self, going around, being a little belligerent, not belligerent, but boisterous sometimes. Kayla,
Yeah.
what were you
And
gonna say?
I was gonna say that I feel like Michael Fassbender does the best at doing that because he's just kind of like eccentric.
Hmm.
Just so he brings such a unique quality to the role because I only watched other two versions. I only watched two other versions, but his was just so much more rich to me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I know, I agree. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people. So the most well-rated one is the 2006 with Toby Stevens. I don't know. I'm kind of
He did
eh,
good, but it was almost like theatrical to me, and it just didn't have that like he didn't bring that mysterious, eerie, quirky, eccentric
okay.
vibe that Michael Fassbender
Okay.
brought.
Fair enough. And then Timothy Dalton, I actually like recorded this just to send to my mother because he at one point in the scene he turns to the camera, but he's looking at Miss Fairfax and he's like, "She bewitched my horse." And he says it, and you're just kind of swooning at the moment same
Hmm.
time.
No, seriously, that was a big surprise. I mean, it shouldn't be. It's Timothy Dalton, but I was like, ooh, he makes a really good Rochester.
Hmm.
Oh, now I can
Yeah.
watch it tonight.
You should.
And then Karen Hines, who plays Captain Wentworth in the 1995 Persuasion, plays Rochester. That's the one you saw, Kayla, with Samantha Morton from 1997. He, I think, was a little too happy go. He wasn't as, I want my Rochester to be like a little mean at first, a little gruff
Hmm.
and
Yeah, he just seemed like a dad vibes, if that makes sense.
Dad version of Rochester.
Yeah, it was not as dangerous almost, you know, that you kind
ooh.
of want from a Rochester, I feel like.
Okay, so I have to say we're all talking about okay, the three of us obviously are fans of Mr. Rochester, but some people don't like this character.
No, I noticed that in our meme, there was so many comments that were like, Rochester's not a 10.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kayla's referring to our recent meme that he's uh he's a 10 but, and for him, what did we say, Kayla? You want to
He's a
say
10, but he has a wife in the attic. Or
it?
he has a wife locked in the attic.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the Bronte sisters really wrote toxic relationships and very toxic men. And that's why I told Kayla when we were watching the movie together, we're like, we can add him to the list of like toxic crushes that we had, like Spike from Buffy, like all this stuff. It's like he's not someone you should like. Same
Yeah.
with like in Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff, very toxic. You shouldn't have a crush on him, but there's something about the story that
He's
does
your
draw you in.
Yeah, he's your guilty pleasure.
Yeah, yeah.
I like your Spike from Buffy reference, totally on board. Um, there's got to be some more in that category, but I think people might have problems with him, but again, you have to think about the time period, the context. Well, that's another thing. People might be thinking like she's 19, so obviously age gap, but also I think Miss Fairfax says this, like she's inexperienced in the world. This is probably the
Yeah,
first man she's met, kind of like she took the
yeah.
first job she found. Um, but there's something about their connection you can't ignore.
Yeah, and the movie and the book make it a really big point that throughout the story, Jane expresses her desire for her own identity and her own meaning and like having her own agency. So that's what I loved about the book. The first time I read it was like, oh, hey, there's this character who's this young and she's really not really looking for love, but she's really trying to find herself because she never either had a place or had her own people. So her finding Rochester, someone who encourages that side of her, that, passion and fiery side of her, I think that's where she's like, oh, I found my person. I found my home. So it kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
But are you forgetting Anna, her people, her fairy people that she apparently comes from? No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
yeah. The green men.
hmm I
Wait,
love
what?
that.
What?
Because Rochester always jokes that she's a witch or a fairy,
Um,
something unearthly.
So that's her people.
I love that.
Yeah.
And to go along with the spooky element, so Jane often hears laughing and noises up in like other parts of the house that she's not supposed to go in. Totally creepy, but awesome. And then we have the big fire scene where she saves Rochester from his bedroom, a little intimate there, from, a big fire in his bedroom. And that's, if you've read the story, if you've seen another version, you know who that is. But you got to put yourself in her place. She's like, what the heck? Like, this is a haunted house.
yeah, I liked when me and Anna were watching it recently because the first time she's in her room and she hears something outside and she gets up, and then we're like, we would have just locked the door and like back to
Locked our
sleep.
door.
And
That damn
but she
Grace
has to go
pool.
out. Yeah, but she has to go out and like explore. And we're like, I would have just gone back to sleep and locked the door. Like,
The end.
Well, she may have smelled smoke, and she's, kind of like the governess. She's probably thinking of young Adele. Maybe she's got a
Yeah.
little maternal instinct in her. And I don't
yeah,
know.
I
And then
like.
I love, oh,
No, you go ahead.
just one more thing, the fact that Mia
Hmm.
Wasikowska, however you say her name properly, which I can't, was cast in Crimson Peak, kind of a similar role.
Love that. Yeah.
She just does this role so well. I like Ruth Wilson in the role. So she was nominated for some awards. This was her first role. I don't know if you're familiar with the actress Ruth Wilson, either of you.
Yeah, I've seen her in other things.
hmm And I think she does a fantastic job as Jane. It's different than Mia's version for sure, but I don't know. The chemistry for me between Toby Stevens and Ruth Wilson, it's just there. And the bedroom scenes, like, so after she saves him, there's this lingering moment between them. Very romantic. He's kind of like, are you just going to leave me like this? And they're in the bedroom. It's kind of scandalous. And the scenes in the 2006 and the 2011, you can just kind of feel the tension there and the chemistry.
I didn't feel much tension in any of them other than the 2011. That's just my opinion. I was just kind of like, I don't know, the other
You're like
version.
shut down. You're like, it's not Michael Fassbender.
Because he like looks at her and then she's just like, oh my gosh. And then but the other version is just like, I don't know, saying
No,
it.
and you're right. Michael Fassbender has that like super serious glare that I would also blush and like freak out. I told you I wouldn't be as bold as Jane. I'd be like blubbering. There's no way. No, but he does have that look where he's like judging you, but at the same time just examining you. Like he makes you feel insecure. And
I
I
know.
think that's what works.
Well, Carly, let's let Carly say something because there's a lot of people that love the 2006. So Carly, what is your opinion?
Well, and keep in mind, I'm someone who, Caleb, remember when we did Pride and Prejudice, we said, why can't you love both the miniseries and the movie? Same with Jane Eyre. I love the miniseries from 2006. I love the 2011 movie. Like they're different. But anyways, I've seen the 2006 one a couple times now, and the flirty banter between these two for me, they they get to spend more time with each other like outside because it's a mini series, there's more scenes. So there's more scenes of them getting to know one another. And so,
Yeah, it's almost you can't really compare them because and I did like in the 2006 getting to see more scenes. It almost felt like a behind the scenes of like the movie because I was like,
oh,
"Oh, I haven't read the book." So I was like, I didn't know this was part of the story. And I liked how she saw, I think it was the 2006 version, she kept seeing the scarf coming out of the
yes, the red
attic or
scarf.
whatever. And I was like, that's cool. That's a cool touch.
Yeah. No, there's some really
I'm
cool
gonna have to try to
elements.
watch that one.
You have to, Anna. It's really good. But different. And yeah. Okay, and so the next day after the fire, he's just gone. She's kind of like feeling like, okay, maybe he does like me, but he's like peaced out because he has this plan that he's about to enact. And we got to talk about this strategy here of Rochester's. This is kind of like a few points against him, maybe.
He's such a
Yeah.
brat. Yeah.
I know me and Anna were talking. It's like he's playing mind games or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of not fair of a mind game because she's fresh out of school. This is her employer. And like, how is she supposed to feel comfortable to approach him in a drawing room with all these other wealthy people? Like, it's not equal.
Yeah, he has the upper hand in every like point. Yeah, there's no way.
That, and see, this is the one, Anna, like, I don't think I would act just like Jane Eyre in this
Yeah.
instance. Like, I wouldn't approach him in the drawing room. And he didn't even introduce her to
Yeah.
people like, and then he's like, why did you leave the drawing room? You're not allowed to leave the drawing room. And it's like, you ignored me. Like, you really thought I was supposed to come up to you?
Well, remember they were his guests were also talking about governess and how that they were like plain and boring and like evil and whatever. And she's sitting right there. I mean, they're talking pretty much about her. So she leaves, and that's when he comes chasing her and going, "You can't leave. I didn't dismiss you."
Right? But he didn't really stand up for her in the
Mm-mm.
room either. But okay, so putting that aside, so that's a little strike against him. But of course, I love the scene when he does kind of chase after her and he's like, you look a little depressed. He's trying to fish. He's fishing for something like, do you love me? Like,
Yeah.
She's so immature, like so dramatic. And
I
men think
know.
women are dramatic.
And in the book, so they very rarely include this. There's this whole scene in the book, and you might recall, where he dresses up like a fortune teller
Hmm.
and has all of the women come to see him to tell her fortune, to tell their fortunes. And he gets Jane in there and tries to provoke her even more to admitting.
Yeah,
And
and see,
oh, yeah.
in the 1983 version, they actually showed that part, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Same. And then in the 2006, I think he's like not dressed up like the fortune teller. He's behind the curtain because I guess that would have, because that always seems a little weird. Like she didn't notice him, but Timothy Dalton pulls it off.
Yeah.
Too funny. Um, and then we get the the uninvited guest. Okay, so Mr. Mason, the sis, nope, the brother of Bertha, Bertha Mason, who is the wife locked up in the attic, and Jane doesn't know this. He gets stabbed in the middle of the night. Jane is right there beside Rochester, doing all the good things, trying to cover it up, but also take care of the wounds. Again, he's able to trust her. She's, perfect in this emergency situation. And yeah, what do you think about that scene?
Oh yeah, I love the 2011 version of this. It's just super, as Anna said, it's got a definitely a more supernatural vibe than the other ones do at this point. And again, I just think it was superior.
Yeah. Um, totally agree. Oh, I noticed that the 2006 version, she's looking out the window and she sees like the candle kind of going from room to room up the tower. And they took that from the old version, the 1943 version with Orson Welles and Joan Fontaine. So some of these cinematic elements are really cool if you see like them kind of reoccur in the different
Yeah, that's
versions.
fun.
Yeah. Okay. So next up in the storyline, we have the letter, I believe, that comes to her from either Bessie, her old maid, or someone saying, "Hey, your aunt's dying, your cousin killed himself. Come home and, she wants to see you at Gateshead." And of course, she has to first ask for leave of Rochester. And here's another little flirty moment between them with the money exchange. Like, you haven't paid me. I haven't had my wages. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to shortchange you. So you have to come back for more.
I love that scene. I love the way he's like, "How do we say goodbye?" Or yeah, no, I love that scene. I think again, the 2011 one definitely has that chemistry that Kayla and I love.
For sure. And then Miss Reed is always just so evil.
Oh
Like,
God,
do
in
we even
every
have to
version,
talk about her?
she is evil.
Killed, like, no. But Sally Hawkins plays her in 2011, and we love Sally Hawkins in Persuasion 2007. So to see her play Anne Elliot, the sweetest, most beautiful woman, and then to play Aunt Reed in this, it's like, what an actress. Like, she's so good.
Yeah, she is.
Um, then she comes home, and this is just really starting to ramp up the romance here because she even says, like, "You're my home. I'm so glad to return to you." And he kind of provokes her, like, "Why do you have to leave? I don't have a wife." Even though, like, this whole Blanche Ingram thing, which we didn't really talk too much about Blanche Ingram, but um he basically made it seem like he was going to
Away.
propose.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that she had to go away because, Adele was going to go to school and she would need to find another job. And he makes it, I know there's different versions, or I'm not sure if the 2011 one says it, but he says that he'll send her to Ireland. He found a great job over there, far away. I mean, he's torturing her.
Oh yeah, the 2011 version doesn't have that because I remember when I watched the miniseries, I heard him say that and I was like, oh my God, like that's so cruel.
That's what you get with the miniseries. You get a little more detail. And yeah, the declaration of love scene. Okay. I mean, this is just so romantic, so amazing. He kind of finally lets her off the hook a little bit, stops provoking her too much, and is like, "You are the one, that I want to marry, not Blanche." And she's in disbelief at first. She's been made to think that she's pure, poor, obscure, little and
Mhm.
plain. um, and so she's having a hard time believing that this great man wants to marry her. But then I think she just realizes, like, no, this connection, this cord of communion in between their ribs is really, in fact, true.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, I love again the 2011 like Mia. The way Mia says her lines, it's like she really feels them. Like I just really believe her. And I like the other ones, but like it just felt more like saying your lines.
Well, and the setting on the 2011 where it's outside, I mean, it's more, again, just everything around them works. The
Yes.
actors work. Like it's just more romantic, more dramatic. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah, you get some of the Lynn Slayer, Kayla. I mean, I think Jane Eyre 2011 is similar to Pride and Prejudice 2005 in that
Hmm.
it's just aesthetically a beautiful
Hmm.
movie. The music, we haven't even talked about the 2011
Yeah.
music, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's amazing. That's Dario Marianelli. Wait, that's the same as Pride and Prejudice, isn't it? Yeah. So it's the same music as Pride and Prejudice, actually, 2005. The same
That makes
composer.
sense.
Yep,
Yeah.
Dario Marianelli. So this is just perfect. It's just heightened emotions, a lot of violin, piano elements. I mean, it's just beautiful. And the lighting and the yeah. And so this one was filmed at Haddon Hall, which is a beautiful place, Kayla. This is where Firebrand was filmed. Yep. So Firebrand starring Alicia Vikander, and then of course real life couple with Michael
Michael
Fassbender.
Fassbender.
Hmm.
I was curious, what makes a building a hall?
I don't know this. We can't go into this. You're so cute.
Because I was like, it's not a hallway. I mean, it's a big building.
Well, it's the name of the state.
Okay.
I can't give you the answer. I don't know.
Well,
Not
if we have any listeners out there, let us know. Why is it a hall?
and same costume designer of Firebrand and Jane Eyre, 2011, Michael O'Connor.
I have some information on this for the 2011. So apparently the fashion it's like 20 years to or too late
Later.
later, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really like how the more like tight
The
knit.
dresses
Yeah.
looked, yeah.
He just didn't feel like it looked good on her. And that's like the only thing that wasn't too accurate. But I like that about it personally.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of Joe Wright for Pride and Prejudice 2005. He said it earlier because he didn't like the super high waist Regency gowns. He wanted it to be a little more loose fitting on Keira Knightley. So that's so funny. There's so many like little connections, little movie trivia connections.
I know, that's why I've always just preferred movie versions of period films because it's like they're just they make it their own in a way that just does justice to the story in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually miniseries, they're really trying to be faithful to the book,
Yeah.
which has great things about it. But then Kayla with her and Anna, both of
Yeah.
you are artists and creative minded. I
Mhm.
feel like I guess the movie versions probably speak to you.
Yeah, well, Anna actually reads these stories, so probably has a different opinion than me. I'm
No,
scared.
I agree with that. And that's something that I was really disappointed as well with the 1996 Jane Eyre. They rushed that ending. Like, I mean, the rivers are pretty much non-existent. All of that, mess
Hmm.
just completely rushed over. And I was like, ugh,
Oh.
what's going on here?
Yeah, that was such an odd movie. But it was all that was filmed at the same place as 2011, Haddon Hall, the hall we're talking about, Kayla,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. But you do notice some of the same settings.
Oh,
But
I have another point. So the 2006 version, I think it took place indoors, that whole final, when their confrontation when they
wait,
said
are we
we
at
love
the
her.
end yet? Oh, no, the Declaration of Love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the declaration. It was inside, I believe, right? And I took a note because I could not get past the nostril.
Wait, hold on. What are you talking about? What are you? Because we were so not 2011 because that's
No,
outside.
2006.
Okay.
It took place inside, and I just couldn't help but notice his nostril was very open throughout the whole time. It was distractingly so, and I'm just had to bring that up.
You're like, that's a minus point for me.
That's a deduction of hot. So
All right, Kayla.
Now I have to watch it.
you'll have to go back and look at the nostril and see if you notice it as well.
Toby
Oh, that's
Stevens
so
nostrils.
funny.
Okay.
See if I can find a picture.
You know, like the nostrils were overacting.
That was nostril acting.
Well, I mean, you've got Emma Thompson with her chin acting, Keira Knightley with her jaw acting. You get all kinds of acting. Oh, the eyes. What is that guy who on Instagram does the eye acting?
Oh, here's a picture. I'll send it in the group. That's a bit of it. It was
I
definitely
see
more
it.
open though.
I see it, Kayla.
But you can kind of see what I'm talking
I get it now. That's so
Oh,
funny.
that's great.
There's the list again. Oh my gosh, too funny, Kayla. All right, so she accepts his proposal, and there's happiness for sometimes a month in these adaptations, sometimes a couple days, um, or what seems like, a couple minutes. But I think, they maybe wait a month or so before they get married. The 2011, the montages of her sketching him and him trying to like take a peek of
Hmm.
her. I know you guys love that because
Yeah.
it's just adorable. Some of the versions, they go shopping and pick out a veil, and she wants the really plain veil and he wants the more like, elaborate veil. But it doesn't really matter because Bertha, she's gonna go rip up that veil.
Oh, Bertha.
Oh, Bertha. I mean, I love how it's included in some of them, the older ones, not the 2011, where she creeps in there. So
Yes.
scary.
I have a question. How does she keep getting out?
Okay, she, the girl, okay, Grace Poole is the caretaker. She likes her drink.
Yeah.
So she gets drunk and Bertha goes, gets the keys off her belt. Yeah. At
Uh,
least, is that right, Anna?
Yeah, I just can't believe Mr. Rochester never did anything.
I know it
Like,
kept
you never
happening.
got onto Grace Poole? Like, really? One time, okay, but the second time, like, she tried to burn your house down.
It's almost like he loves the dramaticism of it or something.
Yeah,
It
right.
feeds into his whole eccentricness. Oh, she keeps getting out. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Okay, do you feel okay, well, hold on. Quick bit about the wedding. So the wedding goes on. I mean, the wedding gets started in all of them. Sometimes he's pulling her up the hill, pulling her to the chapel, ripping her arm out to get her there. They get up to the altar. The person who's marrying them, Efficient, is doing his little speech, and then they get interrupted. And he is just like, he knew this was going to happen.
Hmm.
Like, come on. And it's announced that he has a wife that is still living. She's up in Thornfield Hall. People have seen her recently. And poor Jane is just like, okay, yeah, I had no idea. This is not Grace Poole. So, what do you guys think about this? I mean, how could he have handled this better? Like, well, there are many ways, but what do you think?
Well, oh, sorry, you go, Anna.
No, I mean, there's really no way unless he told the truth. Like, hey, this is my situation. I was somewhat, forced to marry her. My brother and my dad, made me marry her. Because he does also have like a really sad story. Like, he's constantly bullied by his dad and his brother. Um, he never had a choice of his own. Didn't really get to have that, like, oh, love, at first sight or whatever. So he could have just explained maybe that to her and let her know she's not well. I don't know. I don't consider myself married anymore. I don't know, but hiding it, we talked about this in modern times. If you met someone and they had their wife locked up, we would run away from them, Kayla.
I know. I mean, Michael Fassbender is pretty cute.
Still, it's a horror story.
It is. But again,
It
I have to
is.
say, I love the way Michael Fassbender is so dramatic and like drags her up there and he's like, this is what I have to live with. And
This is my wife.
meet my wife.
Yeah.
In the other
Oh my
versions, he's
gosh.
just not as dramatic. He's more just like, yeah, so this is what happened.
I don't know. I'm always just like, oh gosh, what is she's gonna look? I always feel bad when they turn to Bertha, which I think the 96 William Hurt version, they just don't even show a woman. Um, but like this poor lady who's just, I mean, you feel sorry for her too. You feel sorry for Rochester. It's just like, what a bad situation. And her family didn't take care of her. Her family just
Mm-mm.
married her off, and she's in cold, bloody cold England. And like, ugh.
I know
But
they
at
were.
least she's not in an asylum, at least.
Yeah. He
Oh
did
yeah,
save her from that.
I know, and that's why you still have a, you still appreciate Rochester, and he's not all bad because he has
Yeah,
a.
but then he asked Jane to like stay, like stick around and be my mistress. Poor
He's like no,
Jane.
he's like no one would
Again,
know.
19 years old. Like this is such a terrible like thing to ask.
Oh
It
yeah,
is.
especially back then, and considering her age,
Yeah.
like yeah, you're right. That's rough.
Yeah. And I like how in the Michael Fassbender version, he's like, I should have appealed to your senses as I'm doing now. So kind of what you said, Anna, like he should have, the better option would have been for him to tell her, because he keeps talking about trust and
Hmm.
truthfulness, and it's just, ugh. But yeah, so in the book, I kind of pulled out the book. I wanted to give it a more thorough, revisit before this, but I didn't have time. But Jane has to stick up for herself now. She's like, I care for myself. The more solitary, the more friendless, the more unsustained I am, the more I will respect myself. I will keep the law given by God, sanctioned by man. So she's like, I'm not going to give up my principles.
Hmm.
I'm not going to go live with you out of wedlock. Is that the phrase?
And again, I mean, he would have the power over her. I mean, she doesn't have any money. She's in love with him, so mentally he'd be superior in that sense. So, yeah, she has to run away to kind of again find herself and be stronger and have her own agency. So, that yeah.
Yeah,
And go, go,
I
Kayla.
was gonna say, and I love how in the 2011 version, how she runs away and in the rain. Me and Anna were talking about that, how dramatic it is and refreshing at the same time. A clean slate, and
Yeah. No, it's dramatic, it's cinematic. She's running, and we get to see that scene twice because we see it at the beginning with 2011. They kind of start there, which is a different
Mhm.
take. And then you're finally caught up to the movie at the beginning, and you get to see that scene again, and it's like it all makes sense now. Um, Also the Ruth Wilson version where she's going through the moors also has some beautiful cinematography. But this is the Bronte bread and butter,
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah.
Right, Anna?
Yeah.
And the moors are all, you know, windy and barren and just what's the
And
word? Yeah.
that's another thing that disappointed me from the 1996 one. Didn't have that. She's in a carriage for I don't know how long. She comes out and like faints. I'm like, you were in a carriage. Why are you
Right?
fainting?
Exactly. But okay, let's talk about the Zella Clark 1983 version. That was pretty brutal. She was a beggar woman there for a little while. Do you
See,
remember that?
yeah, that would make sense.
She was like begging for food at a bakery, and the woman wouldn't give her a loaf of bread. And then like she's like pounding on the door of St. Rivers guy, St. John Rivers.
Yeah, they pronounce it St. John. St. John Rivers.
So funny. Um, and she's like, I'm going to die. And like you kind of believe it in the 1983 miniseries. That one got to me. Like, poor Jane. So some of them are a little more like brutal. Some skip over it, like you said, Anna, with the Charlotte Gainsbourg one. But she ends up in a good place. So we have this um Parson. What is he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Parson.
like a yeah, like a
And
pastor kind of.
yeah, parishioner. And he has two sisters, and there's a woman there, like a maid servant woman, Hannah, and they're all taking care of her, making sure she gets back to health, nurses her. She goes by a different name, Anne Elliot. Okay. Nope, that's persuasion. Jane Elliot instead of Jane Eyre. And she's just trying to forget her past, right? She doesn't want to talk about Rochester. She doesn't want to talk about the altar that she was, you know, um, swept away from. And she's kind of like coming to terms with, okay, I'm gonna have to get started again. But I am at least, I can respect myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And okay, so Sinjin, I looked that up. I was like, I've never looked this up before, but I've always just like, why? So his name in the book is Saint, like St.
Hmm.
dot John. And apparently that's like a full name. Like,
Really?
yeah, so people were naming their little boys after like Saint John, but they never pronounced it that way because it would be weird to say like Saint
St.
John.
John.
So it's so
I'm glad you looked that up because I always wondered that and I just never did. So I'm glad you
right.
looked that up because now I have an answer.
Yeah. So it's like they thought it would be cool to name their son Saint John, but we're not going to call him that. We're going to say Sinjin.
I like Sinjin. It's kind of cute. Sinjin. It's like it's easy to say and it sounds fun.
If you get a male cat, that's what you should call it, Sinjin.
Sinjin. Oh my gosh. Oh no, I'm cutting that out because I don't want someone to steal it.
Okay.
I sent y'all another nostril, by the way.
I saw that.
That's a better
I
version.
I like his nostrils.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, I love Jamie Bell as Sinjin.
I
Me
know.
too.
I know.
You don't?
I do.
Oh.
My scratchy voice just sounded bad.
I know.
I do. I do. He's just a fantastic actor all around.
Yeah.
And he and Mia were a couple in that movie Defiance.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like such an underrated movie.
I
It's so
love that.
good.
That was a great movie.
So I can kind of see them as a couple in this one. Some of them, okay, Kayla, Persuasion, Rupert Penry Jones plays a Sinjin.
Henry.
Penry.
That's another
There.
cool name. I love Henry.
So, you know, sometimes you're kind of like, okay, maybe she should just go with this guy. And other times you're like, he is so austere and cold and like, ew. I
Yeah,
don't know.
he's
What do
just
you guys
like, I
think?
don't need love, kind of.
Yeah, like, and that's when she's like, no, like killing, marrying you would kill me. He's like, don't say that.
Like,
It's like, but
ouch.
it would. It would definitely kill that emotional part of her life. Like there'd be no passion, no feelings, because he
Especially,
just wants a companion.
especially since the way she was raised was kind of similar to that. Like, she needs someone who will love her and show her affection and all that, you know?
Yeah,
That's
and
a
she's
good, that's good.
19, just starting her life. So yeah, you kind of want to experience that.
That's a good point. Yeah, both of you, because yeah, she finally found love, a passionate love with Rochester. And she thought she had it all. And then she can't go back and just do like this whole companion thing. Ugh, and I don't know. But okay, but here's the thing, Kayla, which you probably caught in the miniseries that you maybe didn't know from, the other versions. So, weird twist of events. She's related to these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, they're cousins.
I was so surprised by that. Like, it's crazy.
So
And they
cool.
still are like, maybe we should get married.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But see, she just wants him to be like, she wants a family. She's like, this is the perfect thing for me to have brothers and sisters. I don't even care about this money I'm now inheriting from her uncle that she never met. And, and she wants to share the money with them. It's just like the sweetest story. And she finally has a family. All she needs now is her lover back. So, should I not say lover? Okay, all she needs is her love back. So she starts to hear whispers and shouts of her name in the wind. It's so cool and ethereal, right?
Is it all of the there's versions that she feel oh my gosh. Fuck. Is it all yeah. Is it all of the different adaptations that she hears those whispers?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a big part, I think, of,
Oh.
Rochester calling for her. But going back to the proposal, and like you said, that she finally found a family, she was like, I have brothers and sisters now. If Sinjin hadn't proposed to her, she would have been happy there and stayed there and taught
Ooh.
until he proposed to her. And then she's like, oh, I have to leave. Like,
Yeah.
That's a good
He kind
point.
of ruined it.
It's
Yeah.
almost like a trigger. It's like something goes off in her brain and she like all of a sudden she hears
Yeah.
Rochester. And even in the 2011, she just literally like does an about face and like starts running
Runs
up the hill.
away. Yeah.
He's
Oh,
calling to me. I think that's in the 83 version too. I mean, it's great. I love that sort of mystical aspect of it and hearing Rochester shout Jane and it's just
In
I
the
just love the
83
story.
version, he is so much more persistent. Like he will ask her constantly, like over and over, and then say that you will not accept God if you'd not marry me. Like he's doing the whole
Oh
religious thing
yeah.
that they did to her when she was a kid. Like you're going to hell, and he was doing that. He was a lot more evil, in my opinion, in the 1983 version.
Yeah. Sometimes Sinjin is like, yeah, definitely more like he's not gonna let it go. And he's
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
mm.
All right. So you two would you have stayed with him? Would you have tried it out?
I would have ran away as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially now we have money. Like, yeah, run away.
yeah, I think she did the right thing for sure. Jamie Bell's pretty cute though, but yeah.
I know. I feel like Kayla would, if it were Jamie Bell, she would kind
Like,
of be like, I'm gonna stay.
but no, but they're cousins, so like, ew. I feel like that's why he wanted to marry her. He's like, did you know we're cousins? Married.
Oh goodness. And so she goes back to Thornfield and finds it in ruins. And this is another amazingly dramatic element of the book and in the movies and series because how crazy she thought she was going back to like where she just came from, a few years ago or a few months ago, depending on the version. I can't even remember. It's burnt to a crisp.
I feel like Rochester is loving it. He loves the dramaticism. He lost his sight. His home is burnt to a crisp. Sorry.
And he's wifeless now,
And he's wifeless now.
So that means he's single, you guys.
ready to
Looks like
mingle.
Jane comes
Ready to
back.
mingle. Oh
But
god.
in fairness, he doesn't, it's not like he's trying to get anyone else. He's not going back to Blanche. He's like, I'm just gonna live in misery. And he probably thinks I'm being punished for
Yeah, yeah.
what I did to poor Jane. And so when she comes back to him, he's like in disbelief. He's like, is this a phantom? Is this, a dream? It's so sweet. And she doesn't care about his, you know, injuries and his blindness. She's just ready to be able to marry him legally. That's all she needs.
Mm.
And in the mini series, there's like more time spent before they kind of come back to terms with like they're they're gonna get married. But I like how it's just very quick and simple in the 2011. It's just like I'm back, I'm here, kiss, and
It's just so sweet, even the way Rochester in that version. Because even in the 1983 one, he's still kind of um, rough, cold a little bit. And in the 2011 one, you can tell that he has been tamed a little bit more. Like he's been kind of
Humbled.
not humbled,
Oh,
but yeah, like yo, you gotta calm down a bit. He's just a lot sweeter, and I do like that version.
he's mellowed out a bit.
Yeah. Can't play those mind games anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Fassbender, he he's just so cute. Even
those are Kayla's closing statements. But okay, I'm still a Toby Stevens fan, but and Timothy Dalton, but William Hurt, it's just Hurt, as you said, Anna. In the end, like there was no chemistry. So when Charlotte Gainsbourg as Jane comes back to William Hurt as Rochester, he's just sitting there in a chair, and she like bends over and kisses him, and it's like
Yeah,
why
no,
are y'all
no
together?
chemistry at all. Yeah.
terrible. I heard that Jeremy Irons was going to be the Rochester in that and dropped out. I think Jeremy
That
Irons
would
could
have
have
been weird too. No.
but still maybe better. I don't know, you're right. And we haven't really talked too much about the Kayla, you and I saw this one, the Kieran Hines and Samantha Morton. I do love Samantha Morton. Do
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about? Who played in the 97 TV movie
mhm.
as Jane? But we think Karen Hines is too fatherly, but I think Samantha Morton's was a good Jane Eyre.
Oh, yeah, she did a great job for sure. Yeah, apart from Mia, I think that Samantha Morton was my favorite.
She did a great job. I mean, she is period drama queen. So she's played queens many times in period dramas, The Serpent Queen, Mary Queen of Scots in Elizabeth the Golden Age. I mean, she's just an amazing actress. She's in Harlots. Yeah. So I think that was a great role for her. Zella Clark, Anna in the 1983 version. She was also a good Jane. She was very petite. And what did you think about her?
I liked her. She definitely had that, not to be rude, but that, plain, like the way they described her all the time. I think one of the critiques I've seen around like online was that she was too old. Like she would mention she was 19 and she looked a lot older than what
Mm.
she was. But other than that, I think she brought what needed to be brought to play Jane.
Mhm.
But Timothy Dalton definitely was a scene stealer. That's the only problem.
So true. So true. I'm with you there. And then the 1943 version, Orson Welles, haven't really talked about him. Booming voice, amazing theater actor and stage actor and movie actor. I mean, this is Citizen Kane, Orson
Mhm.
Welles. And I think he was an excellent Rochester. And Joan Fontaine, who was in Rebecca, and she won an Oscar for Rebecca. Kaylee, I know you and I like that movie.
Yeah, I love that
Um,
movie too.
yeah, you do too. It's so it fit, like she was also a great fit for this role because the wide-eyed, young, I'm in a creepy house with a mysterious person. I mean, it made sense.
No, I really want to watch the 43 and the 83 version now a lot.
Mhm.
Not so much
Yeah.
the 96.
Yeah, no, it's not a.
Yeah, not as good.
I still want to watch the 2011 again because I just love it.
It's so beautiful.
Maybe watch the 96 just for Anna Paquin. Like just watch Little Jane and then you can skip the rest.
Okay,
Hmm.
I'll do it.
Totally agreed. And Anna, you need to watch the 2006 because
Yes, I'll
I'm
have to
so
watch that one.
curious. I'm so curious. I'd love to hear your feedback on that one because this is an 8.3 on IMDb.
I noticed that.
Crazy.
So high.
So high. And then recently I pulled my followers on Instagram, my period drama style Instagram, top 10 period dramas as like a series or mini series omitting movies. And this made the top 10.
Oh, wow.
Along with, yeah, like along with Downton Abbey, The Tudors. Um, number one was Pride and Prejudice 95. Outlander. So people really like this Jane Eyre. Even with the nostrils, Kayla.
The nostril.
Yeah, I was just thinking like maybe the cinematographer was just kind of on the short side and he just got that angle, like. But apart from that, it was well done.
Yeah, and it won an Emmy for best costumes in a period drama. Okay, so I want to take a moment to talk about costuming for Jane Eyre and what's mentioned in the novel and then what we see in some of the adaptations. So the novel mentions that Jane owns three dresses: a black everyday dress, a more dressy black silk gown, and then her very best dress, which is a light gray silk. Okay. And, you know, we often see these dresses with like modest lace collars, sometimes a shawl. And then outside when she's traveling or walking, she's wearing a cape. And so I think that the adaptations do a pretty good job of carrying this through and matching what Charlotte Bronte envisioned for Jane Eyre's character. So in the 1983 miniseries, for example, Zella Clark, we see her in a lot of black dresses, and that's very fitting. And then in the 1996 movie, the 97 TV movie, we see light blue often. And so that kind of goes with the gray, right? A muted blue. We also see some lilac dresses in these movies, some sage green. which also kind of fits that toned down character. Of course, if we, saw Jane in only black and gray, it would get a little depressing perhaps when it's translated onto the screen. But I think they do a good job. And in the 2006 miniseries, it actually took home the Emmy for outstanding costumes for a miniseries or movie, or TV movie. Andrea Gaylor and Sally Kreese took home the Emmy for that. And I think they did a great job. Like it feels very authentic to the time. So she's wearing some light blue and purple. We often see these like white billowing sleeves that are longer than her dress sleeves that appear from underneath. And then we see the Victorian necktie or ascot. And I think she wears like a red one, which is kind of a nice pop of color, maybe when she's feeling a little more bold. So really well done there. Um, Jenny Beavan, she designed the costumes for the Charlotte Gainsbourg Jane Eyre, and love Jenny Beavan. That costume designer, we've seen her forever after the Merchant Ivory movies. And even though we don't love that adaptation, I think the costumes were very pretty. Like I remember Charlotte Gainsbourg's wedding dress as Jane Eyre. I mean, it's silky, maybe a cream colored off-white. It's very pretty. I also love the wedding dress, especially in the 2011 movie with Mia Wasikowska. That costume design was Michael O'Connor, who took home the Oscar for The Duchess, also designed for tons of period dramas. So Firebrand most recently, and Tulip Fever, The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. Yeah. And um, other dresses from that 2011 movie that really stand out to me. So when she's sitting in meeting Rochester for the first time, it's kind of this like it might be black, but it almost shows up as like a dark green at times, but it's very pretty. So she's put on her a better dress to meet him. So that's probably that second dress that Charlotte Bronte was referring to. And later we see when she's working at the school, right after she's already left Rochester. I love that dark but bright blue dress that she wears with some little floral pattern. And she's got the necktie as well, the ascot. And that's probably my favorite dress. I'll definitely post that one on my Instagram. But yeah, her wedding dress in that movie is just beautiful. Think it's what you think of when you think of like Victorian lace and the bonnet, the veil with the flowers. It's just so pretty. And her final dress in that one, when she returns to Rochester, it's this muted gray, almost a little touch of lilac. And there's some wavy lines, some trim, and it's like a golden yellow trim. The matching bonnet, which is like see-through lacy gold, and the white lacy collar. I mean, that dress, that whole costume to me is so beautiful and a bit happier, a bit cheerful because she's returned to Rochester. So I hope you like our breakdown of the costumes. I also want to mention just Victorian hairstyles a little bit. So we're used to seeing the classic Victorian side curls in a lot of period dramas that are set during this time period. We don't see that with Jane. We see that with the Mrs. Reed character, the Mrs. Reed, and then Blanche Ingram. So those are kind of reserved for those characters who may be a little more stylish, maybe. But with Jane, we see her hair parted down the middle, straight, pulled back to a simple bun, modest. Sometimes, the little hair that kind of curls over the ear. And then I have to mention that um, just sort of a nice character moment in the 2006 when Jane has, you know, been she's not able to marry Rochester. So there's a scene where Ruth Wilson is just taking off her wedding dress, which is also beautiful and simple and pretty. She's just unlacing the corset. She's taking it off. She's taking off her pearls, her veil. and she had one little decorative ringlet showing from her hair that's pulled back. And she takes that ringlet and she tucks it back into her hair. Like she's assumed the full, um, she's reverting back to her Jane Eyre costume. She's no longer going to be Mrs. Rochester. So, all right. We're going to do some just final remarks here. I just have a quick question, a couple quick questions for you guys.
Ooh,
Oh, go
you know
ahead.
who would make a really good Rochester? Who's that actor from Daisy Jones? Daisy.
Jacob Elordi. Just kidding.
Oh,
You're
Oh,
thinking
you're
about
talking about
Sam.
Sam Claflin.
Sam Claflin. I feel like
He
he.
would be a good Rochester.
You
Yes.
need to bulk up maybe a little bit,
Yeah.
but I could definitely see it. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But is he too cute? Probably.
No, I think he
I
could
think he's
be.
got the same Michael Fassbender thing going for him, where
Yeah.
he's handsome enough,
They
but
can.
where he can play it, the other way.
Yeah. They can make him look quirky or something.
Yeah.
All right. What about any Jane Eyres? Do you think Florence Pugh could do it, Anna?
Mm, I don't think so. We need someone a little bit more muted. I don't know. I don't know how to explain
Yeah.
Mia's look that I love so much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And sometimes when I'm watching that, I'm also thinking about her portrayal of Alice in Wonderland by the Tim Burton movie from 2010.
Yeah,
Like the way she talks, I just adore everything about this
me
actress.
too. And that's what I loved about Crimson Peak. I just loved her chemistry with Tom Hiddleston, and I mean, I love her as well. But that movie is also another favorite.
I feel like Tom
Yeah.
Hiddleston could also be a good Rochester.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can see that. Actually, he'd be a good St. John. I can see that.
So
All right. Who do you guys find the most relatable Jane? Is it Mia? Is it anyone else?
I think for me it's Mia.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
What about
I
you?
got it. Well, I love Ruth Wilson. I feel like she kind of is quirky and like she's not afraid to smile a bit, like when he really starts flirting with her.
Hmm.
Um, which I think is just kind of cute because you wouldn't help but blush. Like Mia keeps such a straight face, but I feel like if Rochester was right in front of me, like saying something, like I would kind of like
Like
smile. Yeah.
But I
All right.
love how Mia approaches it where she's like you can tell she's blushing, but she's like trying to like stay angry at like what he's saying, which I feel like that's how I would react because I wouldn't want him to see me smile. I don't want to give him that. So
yeah.
I think that's the kind of game that they were playing where she's like, no, I'm gonna seem as miserable as I can, and he's gonna continue giving me that attention.
Yeah, and she was brought up in such a cold and serious environment. And I feel like that's all she kind of knows how to handle things is just
Yeah.
keep
But
her
I
very
think
mature.
but I think she learned a lot from Helen too, which sometimes
Mhm.
they get into that, like this young girl who kind of taught her to like just be sweet and look past all the hardships and like be light for some other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, most swoon-worthy Rochester other than Fassbender.
Well, Timothy Dalton.
Yeah,
That's mine.
same. No, but I don't know. I like Toby Stevens too, even.
No, I thought Toby Stevens was pretty swoon-worthy, apart from the nostrils. I think he did a good job. I wasn't too into what
Kieran.
Kieran, sorry. I wasn't too into Kieran Hines.
Yeah.
But I have a
Yeah, I wasn't
feeling
into William Hurt.
No.
I'm gonna like Timothy Dalton and Orson Welles though. I want to check
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. No, I think they're both good. Okay, the creepiest, eeriest, scariest version.
I think the 2011 for sure.
I agree. I think I haven't seen the 2006 one that y'all are talking about, but yeah, the 2011 from the ones I've seen captures that more. Just again, that moody Gothic type style. So to me, that's the one that has the creepiest vibe.
I would say that if they had included the veil ripping scene, like,
Yeah,
because to me, to wake up in your bedroom and have some creepy woman like tiptoeing around your bedroom and then wake up and your veil that you just purchased is like torn in half, like,
yeah.
oh, I think that just, a little added scene there would have been cool, but no.
I agree. Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
Other than that, great, great eerie vibes in 2011.
And we also got the
And
fly spit.
from Bertha, from Bertha.
2011. I mean, no
Oh
other
yeah,
film
you're right.
has
From
that.
2011. Yeah,
It
you're
doesn't
right.
get much more dramatic than that. So
I mean, she seriously comes off as possessed in the 2011 version.
yeah.
She's, screaming and growling and like attacking people. I mean, her hair's wild. She's definitely more
Yeah.
possessed in the 2011 one.
Yeah. And the 2006 version, she's like so calm and like it just wasn't believable to me. She looked normal.
Yeah, I don't know. They're all creepy. And we have to just quickly say that there's someone who took her story and made it into a book called Wide Sargasso Sea. I don't know if you heard of this one, but it's kind of taking a different approach to this woman. Like maybe, you know, she was the one that was wronged by men all her life. And I actually haven't read it, but I want to read it. But it's a different outlook. So
That's
you
interesting.
yeah, you can't feel, I mean, you have to feel sorry for Bertha.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is an illness that was obviously passed down. I mean, they mention it, the mother had
Mhm.
it, and they just gave her to Rochester to take care of. Nobody cared for her. I know the brother had the audacity to come back and like check on her. That's why he was like, Rochester was angry about that. But
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, no, it's sad.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think this is it. We're going to wrap up our amazing episode on Jane Eyre. We've talked about 6 different versions. This is even beats Emma when we talked about 4 or 5 versions. So, hope you enjoyed listening to us. And thank you again, Anna, for guest co-hosting with us. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you. I had fun.
Yeah.
Yay.
And don't forget everyone to follow us on Instagram at Swoon-Worthy Podcast. And go ahead and check out our Patreon if you want. We share our videos on there. Catch you next time. Bye.